President Buhari arrives the venue of the summit. It's his first engagement at the three-day high-level meeting between President Biden and African leaders. U.S. Secretary of State sets things in motion with his opening remarks.
We know that African nations have contributed relatively little to this crisis, but are disproportionately harmed by it. It's both unfair and unrealistic to ask them to turn their backs on economic development and opportunity in the name of a clean energy transition, to ask them, in effect, to forego what many of us have done in the past in developing our countries and our economies. And so we believe that the best way, indeed the just way, to address the climate crisis in Africa is to work together.
Many climate and environmental activists have criticized industrialized countries such as the U.S. for not accepting responsibility and liability for the climate crisis, not only as a moral obligation, but also to help finance climate adaptation actions on the continent. However, Mr. Blinken says the U.S. remains a partner in solving the crisis while announcing a $290 million investment in the Power Africa program.
The United States will work closely with African countries as they determine how best to meet their specific energy needs, understanding that for many, the clean energy transition will be a transition to consistent, reliable energy in the first place. We'll do so through programs like Power Africa, which has mobilized the public and private sectors to deliver cleaner, more reliable electricity to over 165 million people in sub-Saharan Africa who previously didn't have access. We're proud to announce a new investment of $290 million in that program. Combating the climate crisis, like so many other challenges we face, was actually championed by Africans in the first place. Indeed, in Africa, we see not only the stakes of this crisis, but also the solutions. Gabon has led the way in conserving its forest resources, which now absorb 140 million tons of CO2 every year, benefiting tens of thousands of people vulnerable to both floods and to droughts. Nigeria has set bold targets and robust regulations for methane reductions, the first country in Africa to do so, which could reduce air pollutants by a third and avert tens of thousands of deaths.
After that, the discussion on climate adaptation and the just energy transition went into closed session. With the cameras out and press asked to leave, President Buhari's spokesperson says the president made demands from the U.S. during his submission. He asked for Nigeria to be included in the G7's climate partnership list for co-creation of a just energy transition program. He also asked for considerable financial and technical support to achieve Nigeria's ambitious vision of 30 gigawatts of energy by the year 2030 with renewable energy mix. He says the success of clean energy in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa will need concessional, low-interest capital-led investments. Meanwhile, earlier in the day, the president received members of the Abu Dhabi Foundation. They announced the conferment of the foundation's award on President Buhari for his efforts on peace and security.
It is to reinforce the work that the president is doing, promoting a bright future for young people who must be given a future that is free of intolerance, one rich in accommodation, full of brotherliness, and also for the entire West African sub-region, that yes, sacrifices are being made by Nigeria at home and in the neighborhood, and there is a recognition of the fact that the world is watching. They're seeing what he's doing, and they're coming to say, thank you to Nigeria.
Adesua Omoran, Arise News.